Welcome to the Wizard King podcast. This is your host Zico. So today we're going to start off with a little video from a podcast episode from the Joe Rogan Experience 1791 with Sadhguru. Sadhguru is a guru. It's in the name. You see that? Sadhguru. Like, I probably didn't even have to say that, but I did. Anyways, Sadhguru is a guru who is full of wisdom, of course from India, and they talk about here about the lost concept of heaven in people's minds. Let's take a listen.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
No, today we've come to this place where if you want to be peaceful, you need a chemical. You want to be joyful, you need a chemical. You want to be healthful, you need a chemical. Well, you want to be ecstatic, of course there is a chemical.
Right.
So, what is the consequence of this? Why this is happening? One thing is, in this generation, one thing that's happened in people's minds is the heaven has collapsed in people's minds.
The heaven.
Yes.
How so?
See, I've been talking to people. 50 years ago, if I spoke to people and I asked how many of you want to go to heaven, almost 80% would raise their hands. Today, you go to your university and ask them, how many of you want to go to heaven? They'll say, they think it's a ridiculous question, all right? Nobody will raise their hand. So in their minds, heaven has collapsed, there's no place to go. So they want to do it everything here, all right?
I see.
So they have not found how to be joyful and ecstatic within themselves. So chemical usage, initially it became alcohol, then it became chemicals, it's getting stronger and stronger, and so many people dying of those things every day, and illnesses, and it's costing a nation and the world a lot. It's not just in one country, it's going across the world. Law enforcement agencies may be controlling it a little bit, but they can never control it totally because the consumption is mass-based. It is more people maybe.
Sadhguru makes the case that people have lost the concept of heaven in their minds, and because of that, the byproduct is the chemical usage, or like the usage of drugs or alcohol to feel good has increased. The question is, what do you think? Now, if you do look at society, especially, the Western societies, you look at psychology or psychiatry, not psychology, psychiatry, and a lot of people that go to psychiatry get certain meds. And then you look at the rise of CBD use, CBD oil, CBD gummies, which I've dabbled with as well, marijuana usage, and then just drugs, other drugs like heroin, coke, fentanyl, which is being mixed into a lot of these things. I've lost a family member to that. He makes the claim because the concept of heaven is lost from people's mind. Because of that, then people have chosen to try to experience as much of heaven as they can here by indulging in alcohol and drugs and things like that. Which I don't know if I agree. I don't know if, that reason, that's why people have lost the concept of heaven. I think, maybe if people have lost the concept of heaven, I feel like it gets replaced with something else. How you look at politics and the way it's become this church versus that church, technically, and how it's become a very interesting environment where you don't, you don't call out your own party. You don't, or not even call out, but you don't correct. You don't course correct if somebody made a wrong statement. You don't talk to them about it if they're in your own party, and if they're in the other party, you call them out and you go at them. You make sure they know, and you put all these labels with them because now they fit those labels. And so, it's very interesting because it's become sort of cult-like, sort of religious. And so, and maybe all those things our byproduct of maybe the chemical alcohol usage consumption has gone up, and it's maybe that's it just all goes together. Maybe they're not, because I was originally looking at it as if they're not. No, both can't be happening. Both situations, because of the loss of concept lost concept of heaven that people are experiencing. Both things can't be true, right? It can't be these consumption is rising and they're looking in other areas for religion type I guess faith and belief or whatever, because that's what it seems like in politics nowadays. But now as I'm talking to you guys, I'm thinking, man, hey, maybe both can be true. So let's fast forward a little bit.
I'm at part 2.
There are pointers as to how to read your own user's manual.
Yes. Let me take you back to this concept of heaven. When you're talking about people in universities, that you say how many of them want to go to heaven. The problem is they don't have any evidence of heaven. And so when a lot of these young people that are atheists or agnostics, they don't want to buy into anything that they believe is connected to fairy tales, or they're connected to some sort of an ideology that they believe was manufactured to control people and to keep people in check.
That's what I said. The heaven has collapsed in their minds.
In their minds. But it's also because heaven is connected to religion, and religion is connected to atrocities. There's a lot of people that think of religion, they think of the evils of the Catholic Church, or they think of what religion has justified, the horrors of history, the things that people have done in the name of religion. So a lot of younger, sophisticated, intelligent people don't want to believe in anything that there's no evidence for. So when you say, how many of them want to go to heaven, say, show me a video. Tell me where I'm going. Do you have a map of heaven?
That is pretty true. How a lot of people attribute like a lot of the like you said, the atrocities that were done back in the day, slavery, the Christian Crusades, all these different, and there's been other things for other religions, other wars. They do look back and look how, specifically with the Bible, they look back and look how the Bible was used. Like I had a friend that I used to work with. I remember I was talking to her about the Bible and whatnot, and she mentioned that, it's hard for her to believe the Bible. It was a few things. It was because homosexuality, that what it mentioned about homosexuality in the Bible. And then also, she also mentioned how it was used to keep her people enslaved, back in the day. And it is horrible, right? That is horrible that it was used in that way. I mean, obviously, if you look at the history of African Americans here in America, and you look at that, it was used because the Bible does talk about the way slaves should be with their master and things like that. But if you use that out of context, it could easily control people's mind, and in a state where they're unwilling to fight or unwilling they're more willing to be slaves, or more willing to live in that lifestyle. But the Bible, just because it's used in that way, doesn't mean it was intended to be used in that way. This could go for a lot of things. You look at different plants, and just because you eat a plant, because we eat some plants, right? We eat like broccoli, you eat the vegetables, but there's certain plants that we eat, and vegetables and things like that, and certain plants that we can't eat. Certain berries that you can eat. There's poison berries. I don't know if you guys remember the Mockingbird. What's that? Oh, the Hunger Games. Hunger Games. And there's different plants that she had to realize that, okay, this one is poisonous, especially after seeing somebody died from it. I think that was in the first movie. But there's just certain berries that you don't eat. But if you don't use it correctly, you will eat it and you will die. So things could be always used in the way that it's not intended to be used. That doesn't make that specific thing evil. It makes the person that used it incorrectly, they used it, whether it be for ill gain. So for in the Bible context, they had an evil intent, or they just had an intent they didn't want to deal with any rebellion or whatever, right? With slavery, they just use it. Or if you go back to the example I gave with the berries, lack of information, right? Lack of knowledge. So they didn't even know that, hey, these are not the right. You shouldn't eat these. These are not meant for that. These are not meant for you. And so, yeah, it could be used in an incorrect way, but I think it's sad, for us to not even give it a shot. Not even give it a try. And yeah, you got all these different, there's also all these other reasons like prosperity gospel preachers and preachers rolling in Ferraris and things like that. And, that's a problem, of course, because that's also like what are you doing? You're profiting. It's not too different from master slavery. The master slavery relationship, the way it was used with the way masters used it back in the day to enslave, to keep their slaves at bay, good, happy. But it's sad.
I'm not asking that
I
question,
know.
offering a ticket. I'm just telling you, heaven has collapsed in people's mind, which is a good thing because…
It's a good thing?
It is because the idea that this is not the place to live well, there is
Right.
another place where you will live
Right, I
well, is a
see.
wrong idea.
Right.
This is the place to live well.
You can have heaven right here.
Yes. And who told you you're not already in heaven and making a mess out of it?
No one. I think that's possible.
We are in a heaven making a mess out of it.
We also
so
could
right
be in
now,
hell too, right?
whether we want to fix the soil or we want to fix the human mind,
Stop
we are
war.
only trying to see that you don't mess up the heaven in which we have landed.
Yes. I could agree with that. I think
Yes. So I also I love what he's saying. I think that just shows the teaching, especially when it comes to the Bible, specifically for the Bible. I'm not too sure about other religions, right? But for the Bible, I could definitely agree that the way probably most preachers have talked and used it, have talked about it in a way about heaven after you die, like this peaceful place after you go. But but there's so much information in the Bible in regards to experiencing life, a piece of heaven now, like experiencing a life where you're content, you're joyful, you're happy, which is something I'm still going, like, hey, look, I'm not perfect. I'm still trying to figure out, growing in my character. I'm going through things now in my life that's really forcing me to grow in certain areas that I'm having difficulty with, to be honest. But the Bible does talk about not only heaven after, but heaven now. I mean, if you just look at when Jesus died, right before he died, he talked about the church, and the church wasn't a building. He was talking about the people that decided to hold on to his teachings and follow God and had the Holy Spirit, right? So these people would be the church, and the church would be a piece of heaven on earth. And after he rose again, which he talks about in Acts chapter 1, he spent 40 days talking about this church, this piece of heaven. This is how important it was to him. This guy died, rose again, and the main things that he talked about was the church, the kingdom of God on earth, not after you die, on earth. So there is this way it's been taught. There's definitely been a disconnect on say, hey, yeah, we're trying to get to when we die. We're trying to make our ultimate goals to get there, but you can experience a piece of that now. Is it going to take work? Yes.
I think the problem is the term heaven. When you say it, people think of a biblical heaven. They think of a place that you go.
No, every religion has their own kind of heaven. That's the
Yes.
whole thing. I'm saying before Bible came, there have been heavens in other places.
Yes. You know, one thing I found really
This is one
interesting-
thing good about this soil is, see, people may even have separate heavens to go to, but we…
I don't know if that's technically true. I mean, I know at least for Judaism, I don't know if I don't believe the concept of heaven was a thing yet. At least not what's stated in the Bible. It's not like this teaching that like when Jesus came and started talking about it and started talking about paradise and being with Father, and when Jesus laid that out, that was all in the New Testament. So if you go back before, in the Old Testament, which is, thousands and thousands of years. I mean, could be millions because we don't know how long ago was Genesis and, the first chapter of Genesis and all that. So if you want to look at that. But yeah, I don't believe it talks about that, the idea of heaven. But anyway.
We all come from the same soil, our bodies go back to the same soil. So this is a unifying factor, irrespective of one's religion, caste, creed, whatever else.
So in your mind, this concept of heaven relates to like a harmony amongst yourself, and the people, the living things around you, including the soil.
See, essentially it's like this. If you feel pleasant in your body, we call this health.
Yes.
If you feel very pleasant in your body, we call this pleasure. If you feel pleasant in your mind, we call this peace. If you feel very pleasant, we call this joy. If you feel pleasant in your emotion, we call this love. If you feel very pleasant, we call it compassion. If you feel very pleasant in your very life energies, then we call this blissfulness. If you become very, very pleasant, then we call it ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call it success. So, to create pleasantness in the surroundings, we need the cooperation of people and forces around us. Without everybody's cooperation, you can't create a pleasant atmosphere.
Kingdom of God. I agree with that statement because it says with the people around you, if you just look at that part, literally what I was just talking about when Jesus was talking about the church. That's what it's supposed to be. That was the intention of the church. It's crazy.
But pleasantness of the body, pleasantness of the mind, pleasantness of emotion and energy is 100% your business, isn't it? So if you're feeling ecstatic, you are in heaven. Because your idea of heaven is a very pleasant place, isn't it?
Yes.
This place, this planet Earth is very pleasant except for the human beings who creating unpleasantness among each other.
Well, this sounds like a great concept, but human beings are very complex. Their emotions are complex, their needs and desires and their trauma and pain and insecurities and all mental health issues. How does one get to that spot? Like what you're saying sounds wonderful. I mean, you're a guru. You're a literal guru. So when you sit here and tell people these things, they go, "Well, that sounds easy for that guy."
No,
look at him.
It's not
He's wise
easier.
and
It is
enlightened.
not easy or difficult.
You got a great beard.
It is not easy or difficult.
It's not?
It is a question of wrong direction or right direction. That is, you went to an apple tree and you're digging the roots because you're a potato farmer. That is the only problem you have. You're the source and seat of your experiences within you. What happens within you? Should it happen your way or my way? Tell me.
Your way or my way?
No, what happens within you? Should it happen your way or my way?
Well, it's within me. When you say within me, do you mean my thoughts? Do
Your
you mean
thought,
my
your emotion,
overall
your body,
experience?
whatever, your chemistry, your energy, everything, what happens within you, should it happen your way or somebody else's way?
Well, I think if your way sucks, maybe you should listen to other people and maybe try their way.
See, if it happened your way, would you keep yourself blissful or miserable?
You would keep yourself blissful if
That's
you were
it.
wise. If you
No,
were
no,
wise
no,
and your
no, no,
mind
no.
was working properly, but if you have mental
That's
health
it.
issues,
That's exactly what I'm saying.
if you're filled with trauma, if you're poorly educated, you're starting from a deficit, a severe deficit where you don't think correctly. No?
No.
don't?
That is not the problem. The original problem, the root of the problem is
Okay.
this. Let's address one step at a time.
Okay.
See, right now, the simple question is, what happens in your mind, your emotion, your chemistry, your energies must be your way, isn't it?
Well, is yours, yes.
It is yours, so it must be your way. But it's not happening your way right now because it's in a compulsive reactive state.
Okay.
So see, anybody can cause anything within you. So if I decide what clothes you must wear, what food you must eat, what you should do every day, you will call this slavery, isn't it?
Or
But-
the government.
Don't go there. So, right now, someone else, something else can decide what happens within you. Isn't this the most horrible form of slavery? That someone can decide whether you are happy or unhappy.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good.
That's not the best path.
So, the problem is just this. An intelligence which needs to be conscious is unfortunately unconscious and compulsive. So the only problem that you have is compulsive reaction to life around you. What is needed is a conscious response to life. So this simple thing people have not handled from their childhood.
Well, I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna put the full video clip down in the comments below if you want to check it out. It's pretty good. But I'll comment on this last thing that I wanted to comment on. This is the last thing I want to comment on. Get it right, sir. Anyway, on the fact that the compulsive or conscious reaction to the situations around us. Now, it's only the third episode. You don't know me very well. Let me give you a bite-sized introduction to who I am. I am compulsive. That's just the way I've always been. But 7.5 years ago, I met a guy named, I might bleep his name out, but whatever. Anyways, he met me. Well, actually, I met him first, and then 6 months later, he ran into me again with his fiance, now wife. And they was like, "Hey, do you want to learn about the Bible?" And at that time, I was in that mode of trying to figure out about God. And I was part of a group at that time, and I was like, yes, please. I was having lunch. I was at UCF. I was in between classes. I was about to go do homework or something in the library. And so we started meeting up, not that specific day, but we started making time to meet up. And I learned through the Bible how to follow God. I learned about myself. And then from then on, that was just the beginning, because then I decided I wanted to follow God. And from then on, 7.5 years later, haven't been perfect, but I've learned a lot about me. There's scriptures about exactly what he's talking about like controlling, being able to respond consciously to the situations around you. Paul talks about this in Philippians 4. He's like, rejoice always. I will say it again, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. I will say it again, rejoice. Pronounce. Okay. I will say it again, rejoice. Then you go down a few verses down, in verse 11, he's like, hey, I've learned, he was talking about, he learned to be content in every situation. That's basically what Sadhguru, if you take what he's talking about, the concept of being able to respond consciously instead of reacting compulsively. These are things that are taught, these are concepts that are taught in the Bible. And the Bible is basically a tool. Later on in the video, they talk about having the correct tools. And the Bible has, the Bible is the tool. But you got to know how to use it. I mentioned earlier that, there's a lot of different concepts that's been in the Bible, a lot of things that's been taught. And some of it was missed. Some of it wasn't taught at all, right? Like how to how to live life now with the peace of heaven. Because things are going to happen, regardless if you believe in God or not. Regardless if you believe in this, that this thing up there used humans to write this Bible, or regardless if you believe in, like whatever you believe in, regardless, you're going to go through stuff. That's a fact. But if you can have the tools, if you have certain tools that you can use to help you manage your emotions, manage the way you treat yourself and then you treat others. Jordan talks about this in his book, 12 Rules of Life. And rule number 4, or rule number 3 or something like that, one of those rules. Learning how to treat yourself, learning how to respond to the situations that may happen in our lives is extremely important. This is one of the areas I've learned how to respond in different areas in my life. Now I'm learning how to respond in another area, how to consciously respond, and it's difficult because right now I'm those tools I haven't been using it correct. I haven't been applying the tools. I've been using the wrong tools in this situation. I'm like, all right, I got to learn how to use the right tools. The only way I could do that is by talking to people and learning from people that maybe they've already acquired these tools. Maybe they already know. But how do I know who has the right tools? How do I know who has the right understanding of the tool? And so, I mean, this is one of the main reasons I started this podcast, because I'm like, man, the Bible has these concepts. If you look at Philippians 4, the start of it is always, especially with the Bible, is always about making a decision. And you're like, oh, well, that's easy for you to say. You probably could, but I can't control what I do. No. You can. It's a decision, though. You have to actually want it. You know, you listen to a lot of people who's been through rehab for whatever, maybe alcohol, whatever it is. And maybe they were forced to go to rehab a lot. Most of them were forced. The ones that have been successful, right, of overcoming the addiction. They probably had interventions with family members and things like that, and or parents sent them off into rehab. But then they jump right back. Most of them jump right back into the addiction, or maybe another addiction. Something that harms them. You know what I mean? Another addiction that harms them. But the ones that the time that they've actually been successful is when they made a decision to go to rehab themselves. Those people, when they realize, I don't know what it is, I don't know what clicked, but ultimately they come to a realization like, hey, I need to take control of this, and I don't like this, or I am tired of being here, or I am this, or I am that. But it starts with the decision. And so if you look at the Bible, you look in Psalms chapter 119. Blessed are those whose ways are blameless, who walk according to the law of the Lord. Right, that's like the first verse. And if you take the word blessed and you break it down into, I think at that time it was Old Testament, so it was in Hebrew. And then you take that text and see the meaning is just happy, superlatively happy, which is like superlatively happy, like super happy. What are you saying? Superlatively happy. No matter the situation, you're happy. And they're saying, hey, those who are like this, who experience this happiness, walk according to the law of the Lord. They're using a tool. And they by using the tool, they've unlocked the byproduct that is unlocking this happiness. So what are some of the laws of the Lord? Some people, they only think, and this is where we get into the area where people are like, well, no, the Bible can't be true. Look like, I mean, there's some crazy stories in there, obviously, right? And it's technically, if you believe in it, it's a historical to you. It's not really just stories. It's historical. It's like a history book almost, pretty much. Let's disregard that. Let's focus on some of the laws, right? They say hold to the teachings. You go to one. What's one of the teachings in the Bible? Hey, love your neighbor as yourself. We all know that one. If you go to another teaching, this is New Testament stuff. Well, that's the Old Testament, but you look at another New Testament thing. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Okay. What's another one that it talks about? It talks about, hey, knowing the good you ought to do and doing it. All this stuff is like, man, nobody is able to do that. No, duh. It's extremely difficult. But if you have the right tool, if you trust in that, you work towards it and you will do it. But it takes a decision. You got to be willing. You got to try. But it starts with one simple thing, a decision. You know what? I'm going to give this a shot. That's what. And look, I know when I'm talking, it's like you're probably like, look at you, you hypocrite. Oh, look at that. Oh, you think you got it all figured out? No, I don't. But I do know from my experience that when I've allowed people to help me understand, I remember I talked about my friend earlier, then I had other people, and I also had years of experience, or a year, or a few months, whatever, pour into me, and I was just open to having conversations with them, and we rebuttal things, and we try to figure it out, and we dive into the scriptures and see what it says about it. It really helped me to understand and learn. Yeah. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share. Please check me out on Instagram here, and also please also follow me on Instagram, IG. Send me videos that you'd like me to react to, maybe like, you know, different videos on people talking about different topics in Christianity. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.